Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Son of a podcast. This episode is going to be a good one. It's going to be a bit different. We've had quite a couple of episodes talking about movies. However, we have not touched or even mentioned series and TV shows yet. And this is what this episode is going to be about. We're going to be talking about the differences between TV series in the 80s and when my dad was growing up, and TV series now. And like always, I am joined by my dad.
I am your father.
There we go. And yeah, is there anything you want to say before we get on with this?
Nothing, let's get to it. It's a pleasure to be here. It's almost Christmas. Christmas presents behind me, guitars behind me.
Yeah.
Christmas spirit is in the air. Rain is in the air here in Spain. I don't know what's the weather like over there, but let's do it. Let's talk about series, TV shows. Gen
Right
X
now
versus
it's,
Gen Z.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right now the weather here, it's sunny, but it's going to be raining this afternoon, and I am a bit sick, as you can probably tell by my voice. It's not, my voice just hasn't turned sexy overnight. It's
Man, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm a bit sick, but it's fine. We're not in person, so I won't get you sick. I won't get any of the audience sick either. So yeah, like I said, let's get straight into this.
Do it.
So, I think the biggest thing about series and TV shows when you were growing up versus when I was growing up, and now especially, is they weren't nearly as big when you were growing up, were they? They were kind of seen as, or even for the actors, they were kind of seen as B-list actors, and they weren't in the limelight as much, were they?
There were less series. I'm assuming because it was more expensive or something to produce a series.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have as many series as you have now, and obviously you didn't have, at least here in Spain, definitely not. You didn't have as many channels.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the 80s, for instance, we didn't have satellite TV or anything like that. So access to series was quite limited over here anyway. I don't know what era you're talking about.
Well, kind of when you were growing up,
90s.
so kind of like the 80s, because I feel like in the 80s, that's when there was, well, like you said, like in Spain, there wasn't many, but even, like when I think of TV shows in the 80s, all I can really think of is Knight Rider, the 18, MacGyver. MacGyver was the 80s, right?
MacGyver was 80s, 90s, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I guess Baywatch, or Baywatch was the 90s.
No, Baywatch was more 90s, yeah.
Yeah. So you see, like, there's no... Okay, A-Team and the Knight Rider. Those are the only two.
You know more than me, dude. Look at that.
Yeah, well, that's because those are the ones, like, I remember I used to love Knight Rider when I was younger. I don't remember where did you download the episodes, or how was I watching them? Or were they just on TV? Yeah.
I think they were probably just...
Knight Rider.
Knight Rider. I think they were just reruns on TV, just remakes. Yeah.
Because I remember I used to love those. I used to love Knight Rider with Kit and everything.
Old Michael Knight. Yeah, great stuff. They were very, very innocent, those series at that time, I think. I seem to remember. And of course, I'm thinking, when I think of series, I think most, rather than when I was a younger child in the 80s, I think more when I was starting to be a teenager. Anytime from 13 to my, mid-teens, 16, 17.
So like when late 80s.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was mostly into cartoons. That's the series we used to watch.
Yeah.
And here you had, at that time, the cartoon series that we used to watch were one called Mazinger Z, or Mazinger Z, which was a Japanese series about a big giant robots that were piloted by a guy called Akira, I think, and his sidekick, who was a girl, and he had a very iconic monster or a robot that he used to pilot because he had two big red plates coming out, like sort of like red lightning bolts coming out of his chest, and they used to get really hot, and they used to spray a huge ray and through his eyes, and then his sidekick, the girl, used to have a robot called Aphrodite A, and it was a woman robot, and her particularity is that she had, her boobs were torpedoes. So the robot used to launch the torpedo boobs.
That's terrible.
That was a classic. So that kind. I mean, that was like the action cartoons we used to have, but it was very limited offer we had at that time.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like the biggest difference when I think of TV series back then versus now is now I feel like there's a lot more and many more series that are catered towards adults and later teenagers. No? Because when you think of all the famous ones, like maybe the Transformers cartoons back then, if you really think about it, they're all for kids, like Knight Rider, the A-Team. Well, the A-Team could be kind of, but like, they're all kind of childish and just senseless action,
Yeah, well, there were a few that were pretty adult, and then there was the comedy ones. I remember there were huge series, which I never watched because I was just too young and not very interested. But I remember my parents were my mom anyway, was really heavily into it, and the whole world were into like Dallas and Falcon Crest, right? They were for adults. There were series, there were rich families that had a lot of family intrigue and that kind of thing. Money was a thing. And they were huge. There was also mystery series like Miss Marple and Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Twilight Zone, things like that. I never really watched those because I was just borderline too young. The typical thing. They're too adult for us, so we used to have to go to bed. So I can't remember those, but they had those series. This was in the 80s. I'm talking about in the 80s. Later on in the 90s, the series I remember were things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and like you say, Baywatch, Knight Rider, the A-Team. They were borderline 80s, 90s series. And I used to really enjoy those. They were kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think people took this like TV shows and series a lot less serious than they do now?
Yeah, series and TV shows were you call them second rate before. I wouldn't go that far. But most definitely, a TV series actor was not even close to what a Hollywood actor was.
Yeah.
And there was not. I think that's the biggest difference. I think we'll both agree that the biggest difference between a TV series back when I was younger and a TV series now is that there was no overlap whatsoever in with Hollywood and TV. Right? They were totally separate beasts and totally separate things. And I think it was way later, up to like when a series like Friends came out, where Brad Pitt did the first cameo. Hey! That I think a Hollywood actor never even touched a TV set,
Yeah.
Or a TV set or a TV series. I think that's the biggest difference.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you, what do you think? Well, so you just said Friends, but do you think Friends is the show that turned the tide, that made people realize, well, okay, maybe series actually can be a big thing? Because Friends was huge and it still is huge. Many people watch it, and I know it's some of my friends' favorite shows ever. And I feel like in my mind, that's the show that kind of cemented the TV shows being big and the proper investment in them.
Right. For a TV show to be big enough for it to be considered almost as big as a Hollywood film, you mean?
Yeah.
I think so. I think that was the plateau of it. Yes. I think it might have started a little bit earlier with things like TV shows that I'd never really watched because I was in my 20s and I was busy working and things like that. But and plus I didn't have easy access to a TV in the UK. But things like Cheers, for instance, I remember that was absolutely huge all over the world, and the actors from Cheers were very famous. Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson and those guys, right?
Yeah.
But definitely it wasn't as big as when Friends came out, and it was also rare to have something like Woody Harrelson eventually became a big movie star, right, in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That kind of thing was also quite rare. It was rare to have a TV series actor make the jump to Hollywood, and if they did, they would be considered second-rate actors. normally. I can't think of any examples right now.
Yeah.
But if a TV actor made a Hollywood film, it'd be like, it's probably a crap film. Let's not go watch it. There's some exceptions, like Bruce Willis, for instance. Bruce Willis made the jump from a really incredibly successful film in the 90s or the early 90s. Not film series, sorry. I don't know if you heard of it, Moonlighting.
No.
No. So well, that was Bruce Willis. He was very famous, really famous at that time, because of that series. With an actress called Sybil Shepherd, they had there were two investigators, private investigators, and they had sort of like this a little bit like Castle later on.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of relationship. You know, he was the Joker, like weird guy. She was a more straight edge, and they had this sort of like sexual tension between them. It was kind of like a comedy. And they were solving crimes, and it was a really popular series. But then when Bruce Willis started with film, nobody gave a rat's ass about Bruce Willis until he did Die Hard, you know?
Yeah.
Because he was just a TV actor, you know? He's not going to do a proper Hollywood film, was he? And then he did Die Hard, and everything changed.
I find it crazy when you say, you know, he was just a TV actor. Because nowadays that term doesn't exist, you know. If you're in a series, in a movie, in whatever, you're just an actor. Find it. I feel like in my mind, apart from Friends, the thing that really turned the tide has been obviously streaming services like Netflix and HBO, you know. Because now instead of either having to go to the cinema or stay home to watch either or, you can turn on the TV and you have both. You have both options right there. You have the TV, you have the movie section, you have the series section, you know, and
they overlap.
Exactly, and there's some movies that get adapted into TV series, like the Harry Potter ones now. They're making the Harry Potter series on HBO.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's probably when things, you know, they kind of merged properly into one.
They did, obviously streaming. Yeah, Netflix and streaming services have totally changed the landscape of everything that we're going through. Definitely, definitely. It did start before that, but the fact that Netflix and Apple TV and Amazon produce their own shows as well has also helped with the merging of the genres, right?
Of course, definitely. And even now there's some streaming services that their flagship product I say is a show like Netflix's Stranger Things that just came out with the season 5.
Stranger Things,
which we will get into later on, and we'll probably talk a bit about that. And
just don't give me any spoilers because I haven't watched any of the new episodes yet.
No, we won't, because then also we don't want to spoil anyone that's watching as well if they haven't seen it.
Or do we?
Yeah. So going back to Friends, you would say that that's the first show that you watched where you were like, okay, this is where things are changing and things are getting bigger. Because I remember you telling me a few years ago that you used to wait every single week to get the DVDs for that week's episode.
Yeah, not the DVDs.
In the newspaper, or what was it?
Yeah, well, for Friends, we actually collected the DVDs, but the series was already out.
Okay.
The series had already come out, and then you used to get, I think it was some sort of magazine or something that used to publish the DVD of the episodes every week. So we used to get them, and in fact, we collected the whole 10 seasons.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Well, but what did used to happen is that it's similar to what HBO's and Amazon do now, or even Netflix is starting to do it, is they're going back to the old school way of releasing an episode a week or an episode every 2 weeks or whatever. And that was kind of like, I'm not gonna say it was cool at the time because you were expectant for the next episode. But I prefer the new way. In fact, it really irritates me when HBO starts releasing one episode a week of a series. It really irritates me. It's like, no, man. So what I actually do is wait for it to come out and then I watch it.
I was gonna say
I can binge watch because I like watching one after another. I don't want to have to wait for a week to watch something that I like. But that's what used to happen. You used to watch an episode and then have to wait for the next week, and it was always a thing.
Well, I feel like they've done the Because they used to do that, I guess, because they would have their slots every week that they had their programming and stuff, But I guess now they just do it to create hype and tension around the series and get people talking about the latest episode, and obviously drag out the bandwagon and make so they kind of artificially create the suspense and hype. Well, I say artificially, but you know what I mean. Which I think for me, I prefer obviously them releasing everything out at once, just because then I can get the whole story. But at the same time, I also like the getting it bit by bit, because it forces me to kind of slow down,
Nah, I don't buy that. No, man, I don't like that at all.
Because for me, like for example, okay, so let's bring up Stranger Things as an example, right? On Thursday, it was on Thursday, I think, they released the first 4 episodes, right? Yes. And I literally watched the first 4 episodes in that same day.
Yeah.
I was planning on just watching it bit by bit over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But I ended up just watching it until like 1 a.m. until I went to sleep.
Of course you would.
Now I'm at the stage where I'm a bit like, damn, well, I don't really have anything to watch now, to be honest. Which actually I started rewatching one of my favorite shows, which we'll get into later on.
Right. So tell me, why did you watch the 4 episodes in a row?
Well, because I got hooked,
Exactly. Exactly. My point made. It's you get hooked and you want to watch it. You don't want to wait. You just if it's there, you watch the whole thing.
Yeah, of course. Right. But then again, because I've noticed they only do this with series that they already know has
a
big following and have fans, because they know that these fans are going to come back no matter what happens. They know that next week they're going to come back they're going to turn on Netflix and see the new episode of Stranger Things or whatever it is.
And it creates that expectation. You release 4 episodes and then make people wait another 3 weeks or a month or whatever for the next month. When's the next release?
Christmas Day, I think, or Christmas Eve or something.
Yeah, Christmas Day. People are gonna stop eating the Christmas meals to watch Stranger Things, for Christ's sakes.
But dude, probably, you know what? There's probably gonna be a few families that are gonna be there, and they're gonna turn it on, and everybody's gonna be watching while having lunch.
Yeah, they're gonna have their Christmas meals are gonna be based around watching the new episodes. Yeah. So, but listen, going back to what you were saying before, you asked me and you assumed that I think that the turning point in series and the overlap between series and cinematic and all that was Friends, but I don't think it was.
You don't think it was? Which one do you think it was?
For me, the big turning point was 2 series that I remember. One was ages ago, and this was in I don't know if it was the late 90s or early 2000s. And that was Murder One.
Murder One.
You never heard of it, have you?
Never heard of it.
Great series. It was a courtroom series about a guy that gets falsely accused or supposedly falsely accused of murdering his wife. I think it was, or somebody, I can't remember. And that was riveting because it was like the whole series was drawn out, and it was just like a big film, really. The plot and everything, the dialogues, the way the camera movements were, they were different. There was something different about it, and I was hooked because it looked like a series, like a film. Sorry, but the real change for me anyway, and I don't know if somebody in the audience will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the big turning point for new modern series was. I think
Lost. I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
Lost.
I thought you were gonna say that before Murder One. That's why you called me off guard there.
Yeah, because I think Murder One is more of a personal thing, but Murder One was an amazing series, and I've been looking for it since. I have it on DVD, but I'm not gonna watch it on DVD these days. But that was an amazing series because the episodes was great. With Stanley Tucci does a great job, and it's a great series.
Stanley Tucci, wow.
And after that, things started picking up a little bit. But for me, the climax was in Lost. Lost was suddenly a totally different type of series, cliffhangers every single episode. the characters were very cinematic, the dialogues were cinematic, the production was cinematic, everything was great, absolutely great, and it changed the way series were seen. And I think after Lost, everything veered towards a more cinematic TV.
Yeah. Because what would you say the TV shows were like before that, before Lost and before Murder One?
I think you nailed it with Knight Rider. I think Knight Rider was the type of thing. You know, it was plasticky props, a lot of if there were any effects that were cheap and bad and and the typical explosion where the car comes out of the explosion and clearly after having gone over a ramp, that kind of thing where the car jumps and turns sideways because there's a ramp right there.
Yeah.
And you can't see the ramp, or when the guy falls off a building and then he comes out rolling, I don't know, it's that kind of thing. They were all cheesy. And then things that were in action the dialogues were they were just made for TV. There was just something about them that there's not much tension. I guess the sets were a different way. The edits were maybe different or something, and they weren't as good. They weren't as good. I mean, there were some great series. Don't get me wrong, but there were TV series made for TV, and they looked made for TV. So there was no question about it. You could watch TV, and then you could go to the cinema, and there were two totally different experiences. Whereas now they're not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I feel like now a TV show and a movie could both be shown in the cinema. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm curious about you, because you very quickly mentioned MacGyver, the A-Team, Knight Rider, and I know that you used to watch Knight Rider when you were a kid. You used to love it.
Yeah.
Of course, a child that age isn't really in a position to differentiate whether the production is good or whether the dialogues are good or bad. You just enjoy the action. But now, as a young adult, have you ever watched any of those series that were famous back when I was a teenager?
I haven't actually seen any of. I haven't watched them very recently. I've seen clips and stuff, and I have to say some of the acting and the dialogue is oof. You see anything like wow.
Yeah, incredibly
this is
cheesy, isn't it?
Cheesy. Well, and then you also if you see clips of Baywatch and stuff, but that was meant to be like that,
Well, Baywatch, there was only one thing that was good about Baywatch.
Yeah, it was the hot people in it, but
hot people in it, yeah.
But the thing is, but at the same time, that's not something that's solely that's only belongs to the TV shows and the series of the 80s, I feel like that's just the 80s in general, even including the movies. You watch some of the movies and you're also like, wow, this is some cringy stuff, man.
Yeah, it's true.
That
is true.
I just see the 80s and movies and series, apart from very good ones, and even ones that people say are classics and cult classics, and ones that are regarded as a top tier, you still watch them and there's some things that you're like, oof, this is wow. But I think that's
just a sign of the times. That's it.
I was gonna say that is the 80s.
It is, exactly.
And
it's a generational thing, I think.
Yeah, but that also it gives them that charm, that 80s charm.
It's true. Yeah.
So, going back to Stranger Things, just quickly, or maybe not quickly because how we are, but how well do you think they captured the sense and the feeling of the 80s? Because I feel like that's a very big thing about the show, isn't it? Especially if you go back and watch season 3. I feel like in season 3 they really shoved the 80s down your throat and everything's super 80s, with the mall and the beach, not the beach, it's the pool, sorry, and everything's, it's like they turned the dial up to 1,000, for whatever reason. But
that's exactly what they did, I think. Also, you have to bear in mind that in the 80s I was in Spain, right?
Yeah.
And what they're doing there is recreating the American 80s, which is probably very different to the 80s that I went through here in Spain. However, what I think they did, rather than recreate a really good version of the 80s, what they did was recreate a really good version of an 80s film.
Yeah.
See what I mean? That vibe that the Stranger Things has. The reason I started loving it is because it had that very Spielberg type vibe, which only Spielberg ever did. You know, E.T. and you know, and Indiana Jones and all those films. You know, The Goonies. You know, the group of friends that are, you know, everybody has their little quirkiness and their little quirk, their character, and it's got that little touch of humor. I think that's what they went for, and because all that started in the 80s, they did a really good job of recreating an 80s film, really. And of course, I mean, the fashion and all that's just a little bit exaggerated, I reckon.
I was going to say, because the thing about Stranger Things is I feel like it does have this, like you said, the same feeling that those movies and series had back then.
Yeah.
But without the super cringy dialogue. Especially in season 1, even the acting is, which is quite surprising because the kids were very young, is really good.
It's very good, yeah.
And I feel like, because I remember when it came out, you were telling me that the reason you guys liked it so much was it did feel like the 80s, and it did feel like they really were in that time.
Yeah, have you watched E.T., the film?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. But
right.
I mean, recently or just in my life?
Recently.
Recently, no, not for a few years. But I remember a lot of it because, you know, I used to love that film when I was young, and I watched it so many times when I was younger. I still remember quite a bit of it.
Right. Well, I invite you to go back and watch it, and watch E.T. and watch The Goonies, and you'll see what I mean. You'll see how the vibe is very similar.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
You'll see. To be honest, I haven't watched E.T. for a long time, so I might be tucking out of my butt here.
Yeah.
It might have aged really badly. But I do remember that the child actors there, you know, Drew Barrymore and all that, they acted really well. You know, I seem to remember that it was a very natural flow, how the dialogues went and how they had that little banter, just like in Stranger Things. You know, how the friends have that banter in between them, and they have this chemistry. Yeah. Well, that when I watched Stranger Things, it reminded me to E.T. exactly the same. You know, the chemistry between all the characters. But the whole recreation of the 80s was really well done. You have to say it.
Actually, and moving on to what do you think about the remakes and stuff that they're making of kind of old TV shows and movies? Because, you know, there was, I think it was kind of like the early 2000s and 2010s, they made the A-Team movies, which were obviously the remake of the A-Team. Then they made a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago, they made the Baywatch, or maybe it was even longer, I don't remember, the Baywatch movie with The Rock and I forgot what this guy was called, but anyways, The Rock, the guy from High School Musical.
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron, there we go, thank you. You know, kind of, which I'd say I do like the Baywatch movie, the recent one, I'd say, because I feel like it is quite similar to the old one. But yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, I think those normally tend to fail miserably. I think the Baywatch film had something going for it. I watched it. I didn't like it, I have to say. I don't even think I finished watching it. But what they had going for it was that they tried to go for their own vibe. They didn't try to recreate the series. Yeah. Right. So it was basically, they called it Baywatch, and they were, you know, Baywatchers. But that was pretty much it, you know. There was no equivalent of David Hasselhoff or Pamela Anderson or anything like that. Well,
but actually they were in the movie though, weren't they?
Yeah, they were in the movie. Yeah, they did their cameos in it. But normally they tend to be if they try to recreate the same vibe, then it's normally a flop. Because what you like, it's not because it's not good. It's because if you like, say, Knight Rider, for instance. When I watched Knight Rider, I was a budding teenager. I was in my early teens. 12, 13, you know, up to, you know, it lasted for a while. I used to love it, you know. I mean, that Pontiac Trans Am, what a beautiful car, you know, and Kit talking to the guy and being a, you know, and you know, Michael Knight, you know, the suave dude, you know. And then when they brought out the new series, right, instead of a Pontiac Trans Am, they had this muscle car. What was it? Whatever it was,
They made a
Ford
remake of
GT
it?
or whatever. Yeah, they made a remake of
Really? I had
of
no
Knight
idea.
Rider.
What the hell?
Yeah, with some blonde guy, some good looking blonde guy, and I watched like maybe half an episode, and I thought, oh my god, this is terrible. Why? Because they tried to recreate the same vibe, but with totally different
Yeah.
things. Anybody that tries to be David Hasselhoff in Knight Rider is gonna flop because only he could do what he did,
Yeah.
right? And only he could wear that black leather jacket the way he did, and
The
those
big
tight
hair.
and those tight jeans with the cucumber in and that was cheesy because it was cool, and it was cool because it was cheesy, and you could only have that in the 80s. So when they brought it back out in the early 2000s or whatever,
It's just cringy, isn't it?
it was cringy. They should have made another series, call it something else with some similarities to so that's what tends to happen in my point of view, is that when you recreate a series that people used to like for a reason, you can't take away that nostalgia, that nostalgic bit of it.
And I mean, the similar things happening with the Harry Potter remake that they're doing. They always seem to do the opposite, don't they? So if it was a TV series, they make movies, and if it was movies, they make a TV series, like the Harry Potter is a series.
Yeah,
I'd say I'm really interested to see what they do with the Harry Potter movie, with the Harry Potter series.
So am I, and I think we'll see what we mean. I mean, it'd be interesting to revisit this podcast once the series comes out, because
definitely
it could be absolutely great, or it could be absolutely crap if they try to pretend that the new actors are Daniel Radcliffe and
Emma
company,
Watson
and they try to recreate the characters with those little nuances. Then it's gonna be a huge flop, because you grew up with Harry Potter, and that's what you remember. If you try to substitute these kids, it's not gonna be the same,
Well, the only hope I have, and if they don't do this, then I think it's really going to be a flop, is they need to like be really faithful to the books. I feel like they should like really make it a point to be like basically one for one of the books, because if they don't do that, then people are gonna be like, this is just a shit version of the movie and the books. You know what I mean? But if they make it really close to the books, and I feel like then they could, maybe even in the future, they could be seen as better than the movies. I don't know. I also want to see how they weave around the the Black Snape. That's going to be interesting, especially in the first book, in the first movie, when Harry Potter gets there, sees the only black professor, and is like, I don't know why, guys, but I don't trust him. It's going to be interesting to see how they weave around that.
Yeah, my guess is that what they're trying to do is enough time has passed since you were an 8-year-old kid watching Harry Potter as a 10-year-old, right? Harry Potter was 10 in the first book, right? So right. So those 10-year-olds that watched Harry Potter when Daniel Radcliffe was 10 years old are now just like Daniel Radcliffe, adults.
Yeah. So
now I'm assuming what they're trying to do is bring back the legend to a new generation.
Of course, and that makes complete sense.
Right. So then all those kids have probably never watched the original series because they're too old. The series is too old. The series of films. So they're probably watching it with fresh eyes, and they'll probably love it. However, people like you are probably gonna watch it and think like, you're gonna think this is horrible. This is just a cheesy. Yeah, which is exactly what I think about Knight Rider and Baywatch and all these things. Yeah.
What I feel about what was slightly different about that is in these remakes they try to keep the same vibe of the cheesiness, which back then you can see like as the 80s cheesiness, so it's like kind of endearing and kind of cute, kind of like, oh, it's the 80s, whereas now it's like, dude, this is terrible acting, this is, what the hell are you guys doing, terrible dialogue, which it's the same, but just one is in the 2000s, one is in the 80s, so it's not There's not that romanticism of the 80s. I feel like.
Well, I mean, the thing is that some things are just too good to try to recreate and too good to touch.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. But well, I don't know when it's gonna come out. Probably come out sometime next year or maybe even the year after. So we have time. To see what happens. And now, let's move on. Well, actually, do you have anything else to say before I go on to the top 3 series?
Not really. I was just curious about your point of view of 80s and 90s series, and if you'd watched them, if you thought they were horrible or cheesy.
Well, like I said,
I'd like to talk about particular series.
Go ahead.
Which
ones?
No, I mean, I don't know if that's the next part of the podcast or not, if the next thing we're going to be talking about.
Well, I was going to move on to our top 3 favorite series before.
Right. So we can go there and then talk, because there were a lot of good series in the past. We're talking about them being cheesy and things like that, but we had great series. We had things like Columbo, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
With Peter Falk, what a great guy, with his glass eye. And that's aged beautifully, that series. All the episodes are the same, granted. But his character is just, it's unbeatable. And things like my top 3 series, they're unbeatable too. Right?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily modern.
I do want to say, it sounds like I've just basically said every series before the 2000s is absolutely shit. I know there are a lot of good series before that were very good. Like I mentioned that I love the old Knight Rider, the A-Team. When I was young, I used to love them. And of course, in the 90s, there's a bunch with, like, for example, I remember there was this show that I used to watch at Grandma's house. It was it was a Chuck Norris. No.
You remember that?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that.
Can I embarrass you a little bit with this?
We're not.
Oh, come on, you gotta say it, man.
Okay, fine. You can explain it.
Gabe's, for all of you watching, one of Gabe's favorite series when he was, granted you weren't that old, you must have been 6 or 7, was The Saddle Club. What was The Saddle Club about, Gabe? Tell us.
I don't know, I don't remember. But from what you guys told me, it's basically like girls that used to ride horses, no?
Yes.
As a saddle club.
But they used to solve very lightweight mysteries. There were 3 girls, I think it was.
Okay.
I used to love that series.
What can I say? Anyways, I wasn't going to mention that. I was going to mention, I think it's like Texas Ranger or something like that. It's like it's a 90s movie where Chuck Norris is the main character, and he's Chuck like Norris, and he's,
that was good.
But
that was good. But I mean, there's legendary series. There was like The Love Boat, which was, I seem to remember, it was a terrible series, but everybody used to love it. About a cruise ship and the adventures that happened in a cruise ship. You had things like, well, of course, Will Smith would be nothing without the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Things like that. You had Cheers.
Yeah, 100%.
There was a lot of really, really famous, really, really
yeah,
good
of course, and that are so good. Which actually, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is quite good. Actually, I watched it recently, like a couple years ago.
Yeah, even further back when I was a little bit too young, but I seem to remember I used to like it. You had things like Starsky and Hutch and Magnum P.I., and then later on you had some sort of like half reality TV type series that were like sort of shot in a very realistic way, which made a huge difference to the genre. Was things like Hill Street Blues, which was a great series. It was basically about a series following one of the cops in New York, basically.
Yeah.
But it was done in a very documentary type style. It wasn't very scripted, or it didn't look very scripted. It looked like it was the real thing. And then, of course, they're the favorites ever. I'm not sure. I had a huge issue with narrowing it down to 3. By the way.
Really? Me too. Honestly, me too.
All right. So, are we moving on to the top 3 series?
Let's move on to the TikTok and real segments where we'll get all our TikToks and reels from.
Right. Now, here's what I suggest we do.
Yeah.
Instead of me telling you what my 3 favorite series are, I want you to guess which ones they are, and then I'm gonna guess yours.
Well, I can't do that because I already read the message that you sent yesterday.
Oh, you? Ah, damn! I thought you hadn't.
No, I saw the notification when I woke up this morning.
That was a mistake. I wrote to you yesterday just so I wouldn't forget. I wrote to you what my top 3 were.
Yeah.
And this morning I thought, it'd be cool if you guys. Has he read the message yet? And I thought you hadn't. Oh, damn.
Well, actually,
Okay.
The thing is, okay. The list really surprised me. I have to say, like
Right.
I knew Lost was gonna be on there.
Oh, don't give it away.
Okay, sorry. Well then,
All right.
okay, go.
Well,
What's
I'm going
your-
to... No. What I want to do is try to guess your top 3 series.
Okay, go. Try
All
to
right,
guess mine.
your top 3 series are Stranger Things,
Okay.
Big Bang Theory,
Okay.
and now I have a doubt whether it's the Clone Wars
Mhm.
or Attack on Titan. I think it's Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
So, my
So tell
top
me.
3. You did say the top 3.
Right?
Okay. So my top 3 is The Big Bang Theory,
Right?
The Clone Wars, and Attack on Titan. Stranger Things is not in there for
Oh,
me.
no, it's not. Oh, wow, that's
It's not.
surprising.
It's not. I really like Stranger Things, and it is really close to being up there.
Right?
But like I said, it was a very, very hard list for me to do. Attack on Titan is for me number 1. It's incredible. If you haven't seen Attack on
Really?
Titan, it's anime, and people are gonna say, "Oh, it's anime." Shut up. Just watch it, please. Like my Raul and Krish have both watched it. Well, Raul has watched it. Krish stopped watching it. I don't know how, but it's besides the point. I told Thomas to watch it. He said he's going to do it. I've told you guys to watch it. You guys started watching it, but then you guys stopped because I went back and we were watching it together, kind of thing.
However, I have to say, it is a really good series. Very elaborate, very, very well made.
Mhm.
My issue is that it moves a little bit too fast. And my mind doesn't move that fast,
Yeah.
but it's a very good series. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't rank it in my top 3, but it's a great series. I mean, it's brutal, huh?
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah, it is.
If you guys haven't watched it, don't think it's it's brutal. Lord.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's amazing, and it just gets more and more, the more you watch it, and you're like, wow. Then, The Big Bang Theory for me, it's probably the show that I've watched the most in my entire life. I probably watched
With
it
us.
like, yeah, I've probably watched it maybe. I'm giving an estimate because I've lost. Actually, started rewatching it this morning because
Really?
because of this. Yeah.
You must have watched it like 5 times already, the whole thing.
Nah, probably like 8 or 9 times, to be honest.
Really,
with
that
you.
much?
Yeah.
I know
I've-
that twice, at least twice, you forced us 3, you, me, and Mom, to watch it during our dinner time as a sort of like a blackmail type thing. Do you guys, let's all have dinner together, but only if we watch Big Bang Theory. Things could be worse for me on because it's a great series.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, especially because, now that I've grown up and I know more about science, when I was younger, I'd be like, they make all these science jokes and I'd be like, what the hell are they talking about? I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Even though now I realize it's really not that hard. I just needed to learn that stuff. And some of the stuff they say is actually quite amusing, to be honest. And yeah, I find it hilarious. And then, of course, the Clone Wars. I mean, for me, it's absolute. I cherish it so much. It is true the first 2 seasons is very much catered towards little children, which is why I started watching it. But then later on, it gets darker and darker. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Clone Wars is a Star Wars animated series, and maybe you don't know, but I absolutely love Star Wars. I have it tattooed on my arm. So does my dad. But
yes. Show it, man. Show it.
I don't know if you can. It's a bit awkward for me to show.
is.
There we go. There we go.
The Old Republic and the new one.
No, I have the Republic and you have the Rebellion.
Yes, the Rebel Alliance. Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, and yeah, I absolutely love it. I, I said number one is Attack on Titan, but generally I can't place these three. For me, it's like number one is those three.
Right. So break it down a little further. So yeah, well, the Clone Wars takes place between what episodes?
So the Clone Wars takes place between episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And the reason I love it is it fleshes out the characters so much more. It introduces more characters. And like, I remember I made my ex watch it, and she also absolutely loves it. I mean, it's if you like Star Wars, obviously if you don't like Star Wars, then you're gonna be like, whatever. But I don't know how you can't like Star Wars. But anyway, that's for a different podcast. It really does. It fleshes out the characters. Obviously, it's 7 seasons long, so you're with the characters a lot more, and you get to learn about them and be with them and adore them so much more. And
I agree.
The animation towards the end, at the beginning, I do remember I watched the first season, and I was like, oof. You could tell the budget wasn't really there, because there's some scenes that are like, wow.
Right.
But
I don't know what I remember is when you first started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
We watched it with you because we only had one TV in the house, obviously.
Yeah.
And my first thoughts was, it's going to be a cartoon version of Star Wars. But from the very beginning, I was hooked. I absolutely loved it, just like you. I love the animation. I love the animation style, that cartoony type thing, with very fluid, very. I love how they kept the sound. The sound design was very, very faithful to the films.
Yeah.
And then the dialogues and the plots were masterful, I thought. I thought, wow, man, this is so good. A lot of them are just much better than their films.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And you can't stop watching. Count Dooku and amazing, great stuff. And like you say, they go really in depth into every single character and all the little monsters and the cipher. What are they? Cipher crystals.
Cyber
crystals. What they call it?
Yeah.
The cipher crystals. All that. Amazing. I absolutely loved it. Amazing series. Still not in my top 3, but amazing.
For me, it's in my top 3 because it's kind of like that. I grew up watching it, and I remember watching the season 7 and crying at the end, and it was it's just the whole thing, and especially because Star Wars is such a big thing in my life, and it's the thing is that that's the thing. Apart from Attack on Titan, The Big Bang Theory and The Clone Wars, they're not the best series that I've seen in my life. I want to say that. I know I'm not saying that they're the best ones, but they're my favorite ones for, like I said, for what they've meant in my life.
What they mean to you, right?
And everything. So that's the kind of the route that I went. I don't know if you went that route as well.
Ish. More or less, yeah.
Yeah. And then The Big Bang Theory is... Yeah, for me, it's in my heart because I've, like I said, I've watched it so many times. Every time I watch it, I laugh at almost every single joke. Which, to be honest, amazing. I don't really laugh at many TV series. I've noticed throughout my life that there's people that like next to me that are laughing, and I'm like, well, that was kind of funny. But for me, I found this show hilarious.
You're a serious guy.
And yeah, I don't even remember when was the first time we started watching it.
Quite after it came out, actually. I remember the first time I heard about it was from my brother, from Lucas. Because he's just like me. He's quite a geek. And I remember he used to love it, and he told me about it. But I dismissed it. I just said, yeah, whatever. I can't really remember when we started watching it.
Yeah.
Or why. I think it was just like, what should we watch now? I remember the series. Let's check it out. And then we're all hooked. Yeah, because I love it too. I think it's a great series.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing series. Great characters. Penny. Sheldon's very annoying, but I think that's the whole premise. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it is. And I also want to say, I
Right.
want to give some honorable mentions before you go
Yeah.
to Vinland Saga, another anime. It's a Viking one, incredible. Andor, another Star Wars series, amazing. I'm pretty sure it won Emmys or Grammys or whatever the Oscar version of the series are.
Mm.
And Game of Thrones, apart from the last season, the rest is amazing.
Can I just stop you there?
Why? Go ahead.
Game of Thrones, I got bored.
No, you didn't get bored. You got lost, which is different because you're very bad with names. So you get lost.
I know, but then everybody dies, and then they renew the whole cast, and I don't know. You know what? Game of Thrones. I saw the previews. I saw the trailers when they came out, and I expected to see monsters and dragons from the very beginning. And when it wasn't like that, I got a little bit let down. You know, they had that intrigue, but then it just became, you know, like a Henry VIII type, you know, Knights Templar type, and I got bored. There's
You guys should try it again.
I am terribly sorry, world, but you let me down. So,
what's your top 3?
Well, you've seen my top 3, so you say, tell the world what my top 3 series are.
No, okay. So I remember 2, and the other one I had never heard of, which I was so surprised because I saw it and I was like, what the hell is this? So it was Lost. I'm not saying in order because I don't remember the order. Lost, The Big Bang Theory, I'm pretty sure as well. That was BBT, yeah. And the other one, it was like Midnight something.
And Northern Exposure.
No, Northern Exposure.
Right. So,
actually, yeah.
In order, I would have to say, best series ever, Northern Exposure, followed by The Big Bang Theory, followed by Lost. Now, the reason I chose them as you say, they weren't exactly the best series I've ever seen. But in the case of Lost, I mean, it was an amazing series. So at least the first few seasons, it has six seasons. We never actually finished watching the 6th season because it did get a little bit too involved. But definitely the first 2 seasons were a before and after. Yeah. Right. There was before Lost, and then there was an after Lost. It created a new way of making series and a new way of telling stories, and it was amazing when it came out. I loved it. Every single episode was cinematic. The mystery was there. Every single episode was a cliffhanger. The characters were very well developed. The dialogues were great. The mystery was great. You know, the whole desert island thing, beautiful series. The Big Bang Theory, for the same reason as you, it just lifts you up every single time. It never, for 11 seasons, it just never fails to deliver. Yeah. Again, the characters, Penny, Sheldon, Raj, Wolowitz, amazing cast, amazing characters. Unfortunately for them, for me, nothing they could ever do will surpass that. So every time I see Wolowitz somewhere else, he's Wolowitz. Yeah. He's not Simon Helberg, right? Yeah. And I can't help it. It's Wolowitz. It's just, but the series is just absolutely amazing. I can't believe that they managed to do 11 seasons and
12. I'm pretty sure actually,
and keep up the level from beginning to end. Only Friends has ever done that to me. And the reason Friends isn't there is because is that Big Bang Theory is just better. It's more. It's closer to my heart. I'm more geeky than romantic. And although I've always been fascinated by relationships, and especially man-woman relationships, like Ross and Jenner and what's her name? Rachel. And it was great, but I think Big Bang Theory is just that 10 a little bit better, more intelligent. There's more substance to the series. And then sorry.
No, I was gonna say I completely agree with you. That's all.
Although Friends is there in my top 5. It was an incredible series, and again, there was a before Friends and an after Friends. So it's a bit like Lost in that sense. And then Northern Exposure, the best series I've ever seen. I love that it's in the 90s. You never heard of it?
Never.
So
that's why I'm so surprised that it was in there.
Right. So it's a series. It's the basic premise is a New York doctor from New York, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we started watching it. We watched like the first
Right.
couple of episodes.
And you got really bored.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't like it. I was wondering why you wouldn't know it. Yeah. So a doctor from New York gets sent to Alaska, to a small town called Sicily, Alaska, for whatever reasons, and he sees himself as a real intelligent cosmopolitan doctor, and he gets sent to the States where he thinks everybody's just a redneck hickey from Alaska, and it is an incredible series. It is incredibly intelligently done. The characters are super, super, super specific. Every single character is beautifully done. Yeah. The actors and the casting, is spot on. Every single actor was perfectly casted in the role. And I absolutely loved it. The relationship between all the characters, it's incredibly quirky, it's incredibly intelligent, the dialogues are great.
Bagels?
Oh, not just bagels. New York bagels. Onions, cinnamon raisin, pumpernickel.
They say it's the water. You had me do a 2-hour turnaround to Anchorage to pick up bagels? They were supposed to be medical supplies.
Who said that? I never said that.
And the episodes themselves are just absolutely amazing. I think it's by far the best series I've ever seen.
Yeah.
By far. I mean, that if there's something that really holds something in my heart is Northern Exposure. Incredible.
I've noticed you describe the series in a much better way than I do.
And I love it. I love Northern Exposure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love it. And those are my top 3. However, as I say, incredibly hard to narrow it down to 3 because there's some incredible series. And I have to say, there's 2 that I would almost classify as part of those top 3 as well.
Go on.
So I really would have, we should have said top 5. And that is going back to Murder One, which I absolutely loved. And to me, again, there was a before and an after Murder One. And of course, the holy grail of sci-fi mystery, that's the X-Files. The X-Files, it grew a little old maybe by the time it finished, but the first few seasons were masterful as well. Yeah. Slightly cheesy, but I think that adds to it. The blue lights, when you're talking mystery and sci-fi, there's blue lights everywhere. Everything is a blue light. So they do a little bit of that, a little bit too much maybe. But the interaction between Mulder and Scully is amazing. The mysteries at first were great. The fact that Mulder, nobody believes him, and she's a super pragmatist, and she doesn't believe him, but she can't help doing it. Amazing. And then I have, just like you, I have a lot of honorable mentions that should be up there. Especially lately, there's some great series out there. You have a True Detective, amazing. I particularly like.
Oh fuck! I forgot about True Detective.
Yeah, contrary to what everybody else thinks, my favorite one, or everybody agrees, my favorite one is the last one with Jodie Foster. The first one is great, and the second one, the other ones are okay, but nothing like the first one, and in my case, the fourth one. And of course, you have to mention it, even though it's a little bit old school now, but Downton Abbey, great series.
I was about to say it. I was about to say that's one that I used to. That's a weird series, because I remember I used to love it, but I used to hate admitting that I loved it when I was younger. I don't know why.
The same. Well, because it's you're not supposed to like series like that. It's a very old school English drama, this and that. But the truth is that, again, the intrigue was there, the characters were there.
Yeah.
Everything is very. The ambientation, or however you call it, really well done. And now we've got the whole cinema, film, TV series crossover. Then there's really. You really can't fault a series now. They have the same means and the same production. And
it's true. The same budgets. in some cases.
I love all the Star Wars ones that are coming out, The Mandalorian, Andor, like you say.
Yeah.
I love the technique that they use with the LCD screens, the huge LCD displays in the back that they just make it look so cool.
Yeah.
All that is just absolutely great.
Basically, anything Dave Filoni in Star Wars is good.
Yeah.
He's the new George Lucas.
Yeah, totally.
But anyways, I think that's I think this is a great place to end it, to be honest, before we start going on and more, because there's too many amazing series to mention. I mean, there's loads that we haven't mentioned today that are absolutely amazing.
I don't think this is going to be like a lot of our podcasts. This won't be the last one.
The last one, definitely. It definitely won't be.
Yeah.
But I have to cut it off at some point because we're reaching the very long limits for our standards, at least. Like I said, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Is there anything you want to say before I finish the intro?
Nothing at all.
Outro, sorry.
Outro.
Well,
nothing at all.
Thank you all very much for listening and watching, or listening/watching. I really enjoyed filming this episode and hope you guys enjoyed it. If there's anything you agree with or disagree with, let us know in the comments. And as always, like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you next time.